is an author, he's a podcaster, and he's a survivor. Welcome my next guest, Damon Nichols. Damon, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
So for the people who are not watching on the YouTube channel, you guys can't see his incredible red, white, and blue background, but I absolutely love it. If you're just listening to the podcast and you want to see it, head on over to the YouTube channel, check it out. It's brand new. So enjoy. Damon, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you originally from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town called Rocky Ford, Colorado. I grew up on a sheep farm. I was very poor, and that was my way of life as a farmer, and I raised sheep. So
Wow. Somehow I didn't realize that you were raised here in Colorado. That's actually where I live now.
yeah,
And
born
where
and
have you?
raised. Spent most of my life here.
Wow. And where are you now? What area?
I'm actually in La Junta, which is
Oh,
just right outside. I went out and ventured out and did some things for a while, and now I'm back in my hometown, and I'm living here at least for a while.
so, and I know that now you help people become more successful by overcoming stumbling blocks that are caused by unresolved trauma. Usually, when I see something like that, it's because the person themselves have had issues with trauma in their past. So, can you tell me a little bit about what you've been through?
So, like I said, I grew up very poor, but when I was 5, my mom and dad went through a really nasty divorce. My mom took me and my brother, and she left and went to Washington, and kind of was on the run from my dad for about 9 months. And he spent several months finally tracking us down, and he found us finally in some little rundown apartment in Spokane, Washington. And he came and took us. We were both in our underwear. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a really messy situation. But he took me and my brother back. He put us on a plane, and we came back to Colorado. And I didn't see my mom again for a lot of years. And so I spent several years, about 6 or 7 years, on this farm with just my brother and my dad. And my dad was very angry about the situation. He'd been hurt really bad by my mom, and so I didn't realize that all of that was gonna. I was very angry. The one that I needed the love from the most wasn't there, and the one that loved me, you know, showed me love in the way that he knew how. He was a protector. He was a caregiver, but he was angry, and so I got that. So there was a lot of fear, and then it started showing up in a lot of ways in my life, and then I ended up getting addicted to substances at a young age, and just going down these really horrible paths. And I was angry at the world, and angry at everybody around me. So, by the time I was 18 years old, I went to rehab for the first time. I was strung out on cocaine. I had broken 2 needles off in my arm. So I had gotten pretty bad. But that was just the start to kind of scratch the surface there. So, um, but yeah, and then at 21, I ended up got a 6-year prison sentence because I had gone down so many dark roads, and drugs had played a big part in just everything. So my life revolved around getting whatever I had to do to get drugs. So I went to prison for a few years, and I never really treated the problem. And it wasn't until like later on in life once I started realizing, because I went through these cycles. I went through several different cycles, because when I got out, I I thought I had it under control. I was clean and sober. I met this woman. We had 2 boys. I started a business, a successful business. But when things got bad, I ran out of money. I took a job that the guy ended up going bankrupt, and I went back to what I knew, and that was dealing drugs and drugs. And and then I got into the meth game really bad, and then I became a meth cook. I was cooking meth, and just I was a mess. And I was trying to get my life together. I had just started a new job and was, barely getting off of meth, getting cleaned up. And then I got in a car accident, and both my boys were injured really bad, and my wife got killed. So
Oh,
that spun me into another whole, just another dark place. And
yeah.
through that, my boys, kept me alive. They're the ones that kept me from taking my own life, because I wanted to at that time.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and then it just was kept, spiraling and spiraling. And then I ended up getting an 8-year community correction sentence because I got caught again with drugs. And I couldn't stay clean. And about 6 months, they regressed me. I went back to jail. And then I was looking at 12 years. And so a place called Stout Street Foundation, they're a long-term treatment center. They picked me up and were willing to let me come to their program. So I went through
Wow.
that program, and I learned a lot of tools in there. But at the time, I had this massive trauma and stuff that I was trying to work through around this accident and my kids and all of that. So I never really looked at all of my childhood trauma, but I learned a lot of tools throughout that helped me cope with what I was dealing with there. And as I got clean over the next 2 years, I really tried to work on that trauma, but I didn't work on the deep layers of just the surface stuff. And I met a woman in there, and we became friends. And then it was about 6 months after the program, we ended up getting together. And that was in, I think, 2004. And we stayed together, and it was really rough because she had to deal with all of my past stuff, and having, feeling like she was the second everything. And so, you know dealing with that, is really hard, finding that balance of keeping my keeping Dion's, life and legacy for my kids, but yet trying to bring this other woman in that I was starting to fall in love with, that I never thought was going to happen again. And so it's just really crucial at that time. But she stuck with me, but
Yeah.
I hadn't worked on what I really needed to, and then it wasn't very long that I was back into drugs again. And this the last time I ended up, um, I got caught on a stolen motorcycle, and I had drugs on me again, and they were looking at putting me away for. I would have probably spent the rest of my life in prison, but I decided at that point I had to make major changes in my life, and that took me looking at things that I didn't want to look at, and reaching out and finding the right people. So that was a big turning point in my life. We both I got sober in 2014 is when I quit. Actually, it was the beginning of 2015. So that was the last go around for me. So that's kind of in a just what a lot of the different cycles that I have gone through. And but now I own several successful businesses. I have a lot of people that work for me. I came back to the town where I left in handcuffs and shackles many years ago, and I'm very well respected, and I have a lot of really good friends here. And um, so
I love
it,
that they can acknowledge that you've turned a new leaf.
okay, well, I wasn't quite so welcome back, and
Yeah.
my wife was like, she was like, "Hey, I just ran into so and so today, and when I told them whose wife I was, they were like, 'Oh, you're married to him?'" And so she was really uncomfortable coming back here because I wasn't really welcomed back very well. They knew me as this derelict drug addict that was just, spent a whole lifetime of just going down the wrong roads, and nobody ever thought I
Wow.
would amount to anything. And
Wow.
I own a barbecue restaurant here. I own a successful storage shed business. I've done probably 40 or 50 real estate deals. I'm a landlord. I own a bunch of property around here,
Wow.
and
You really do have roots.
the more I go down this journey and work on myself, I see it everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
I go to seminars with a lot of really high end people, and people a lot of times they have a lot of money and very successful millionaires, and I'm like I see the traumas that they haven't dealt with in their lives and the stumbling blocks they have. They don't want to go home. You know, they want to spend all their time at work. They don't have a good relationship with their wife. You know, I've asked these guys, hey, why is your wife here? Oh, she doesn't want nothing to do with us. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of sad. You know,
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I have my wife is she's my best friend and my partner. We do everything together. We travel together, and we're pretty
Wow.
inseparable. So in I think 11 or 12, she handed me divorce papers because we were at that point where I still have them. I never signed them, and I just decided, you know what, I gotta step up and be a husband and be a father and be a like I can. You know, I hated who I was at that time.
Yeah.
So,
And, you know,
but
I drew kind of a strange parallel in my head when you were talking about the accident when you lost your wife. You know, here you were a father with 2 boys,
yeah,
and there were you were as a child being one of the 2 boys with your father.
yeah. I lived that whole thing, you know,
Yeah.
and so, and that was kind of when I was going through that. There was this separation that my dad and I had, which I loved him very much, but it was hard for us because I know that he dealt with his loss differently than I was dealing with mine, and he dealt with it the way because he lost his dad when he was young. So
Oh,
when he was like 16 years old, his dad died, and so like I don't think he ever dealt with that. So I saw where at that time I didn't see, but now I see where like his like I'm just gonna suck it up and be a man, and I'm gonna tough it up, and that's just the way it is, and that's how he dealt with it. And he
wow.
still has a lot of anger and resentment inside, and I love
Yeah.
him to death, and he did everything he could for me, but that was what he knew.
Yeah.
Now, as I've gone through so many years of therapy and been in so many different in and out of treatment centers, and I identify it and I see. But now I'm thankful because I can use that to help other people.
Absolutely. And I love that that's what you're doing. So, speaking of help, what was it that helped you the most when you were trying to get through all of this and trying to recover?
Well, I think I found a couple people that had been very successful. One of them was my friend Benjamin, who went through the program with me. He'd stayed clean the whole time. He got out and he was doing it, and he helped me. He gave me some side jobs, and he just kind of helped me, and he gave me guidance. And it was somebody that I knew that had been through that kind of experience and did it. So I'm like, okay, what can I gain from him? Because I was the kind of guy that, like, if you hadn't been down that road, I didn't want to listen to you. Because I've been to counselors, I've been to so many different types of people, psychologists, and it's like, if you haven't walked that walk or lived that lifestyle, I didn't really, you know, I didn't take really much what they said, which I mean, maybe I should have, but I just felt like if you hadn't been down that road, you didn't really have anything to offer me.
Right.
Maybe that was a little selfish, but that was the way I felt at that time.
That's a
And
common reaction, though.
yeah,
A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people refuse to get help because they don't see that a therapist has ever been through any kind of trauma of their own, or they don't want to talk to a buddy of theirs about it because there's no way that this buddy is ever going to understand what they've been through. And what they need to understand is that they're not actually alone. We can find people that can mentor you through it.
and then I started getting in communities. He kind of introduced me into different communities, which I worked a full time job. He got me into like real estate investing and stuff. And so I started getting into different communities of successful people. And as I started, getting on calls with people and going to different groups, and I started finding a different bunch of people because when I got out of jail and I had to go down this road, I had to stay in my truck. I lived in my truck for several months because I couldn't go to any of the people that I knew because I knew it would be too hard, and I was taking UAs, and I couldn't afford, to go back to any of these people. I couldn't go to any of their houses. I couldn't go anywhere because there would be drugs involved. And I just had to 100% not go where I knew people. And I had to seek out people that I knew weren't doing that. That was the farthest thing from them. So that was a big thing. And once I started getting in these communities, I started finding a different bunch of people, investors, and people that want to help you become better, because all of the people that I used to hang around with, they were all about bringing you down. If you were getting ahead, they would, they would talk bad about you or do whatever they could to keep you, because you're not, because they weren't going ahead too. So it was just, that was who I was used to being around. But once I changed all of the people that I was around, and now all of the people that I hang out with, the groups I'm in, and the places I go, the people are like, yeah, they want to help. They want to see you succeed, and they're all about that. And that was new to me, and that felt good. And I'm like, wow, these people really care. I found a pastor that took interest in me. He wasn't like the speaking pastor. He just owned a church and ran a church, and it was the Red Rocks Church in Denver. It used to
Oh,
be up there at Heritage Square. But that guy took interest in me when, like, I was at my lowest. I had really no hope for myself, and he was a big part in my recovery. So, and his name is
wow.
Scott Woodman. So I really have to, and that whole family, they took interest in me, and they showed me a kind of compassion that I had never seen before from people. They didn't have motives, and that's, I was
Yeah.
always used to being around people that had motives,
Yeah.
and you can feel it. You can feel when somebody's got a motive,
Yeah.
and they didn't. They were like, I want to see you get better, and that was what's, every time I'd see Scott, he'd be like, how are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, I'm doing better today. He goes, I wait for the day when you can come up and say, awesome, life is good, I'm successful. And so I haven't had the opportunity to tell him that yet.
So were you always a believer, or was this something that happened later on
Well,
through your recovery?
so I grew up, my dad, yes, he made me go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I like it. At that time, I felt like it was crammed down my throat. But he had planted that seed. And then for so many years, I went and did my own thing, but wasn't until, and it was actually because my wife went there. I just happened to be in the car with her one day, and we were like at each other's throat. And she was like, I'll give you a ride, but I got to go meet with this pastor. You're gonna stay in the car. You can wait, because I'm not going out of my way to take you where you got to go. So I sat there and I waited, and then he saw me in the car. He was like, hey, you want to come in and grab a drink or something? I was like, no. He goes, come on in, I'll get you a cup of coffee. So he invited me in, and he started talking to me, and I was like, wow, this is different. And so, yeah, and then I'm like, oh, I really like this community. And then it just got to the point where it's like, that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to be around those people. I wanted to be there, and just that helped me at probably the most crucial point in my life is having God work in my life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. My whole as I go down this journey, and I'm learning that I'm changing so many of my mindsets and everything, the way I view the Bible, the way I was brought up, and this whole, as a tool of, I view the Bible as a tool of control, and you
Mhm.
know so I really really made me look differently at all of it, Christianity and everything. My views have been changing on it, but I believe in God, and I believe that He's worked miracles in my life. And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at. If it weren't for God, if it weren't for the people that were serving God.
Yeah.
So
Tell me a little bit about your podcast. What's it called? What do you talk about?
it's
What's it
called the
about?
Breakout Podcast. I've only had a few episodes. We got a couple more episodes where I've interviewed two people that are part of my speaking group. Uh, and they haven't been released yet, but just it's been kind of like just health, a lot of health and fitness, and becoming the best version of yourself possible, and how to make these little tweaks in your life to become better. I have a couple little analogies that I try to give people. I just went and spoke to the prison. It took me 6 months to get the all of the clearance, but I went Tuesday and got to go into the Crowley County Correctional Facility as a guest speaker, and it was awesome because there was a lot more people than I expected. There's around 100 inmates, and then the staff and all of the there was some family members and stuff, but it was so great to be able to connect with them. But uh, it's just about finding those little things. Maybe I can point out something that maybe somebody can be like, hey, oh, that's a great idea. One of the analogies that I gave that I think it is powerful. It was really powerful for these people is like laws and rules. One law is the law of once you've been introduced to something, you can't be you once you've seen something, you can't unsee it, and so um and then there's a rule that I like. It's the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of what you do is going to give you 20% of your results. And I tell these people, like, what if you could get 50% of your results or 60% of your results from 80% of what you do, or 100% of your results by 100% of what you do? What if you could get that focused down, just like a tattoo artist? Like, as they put every brush stroke, every stroke, everything that they do, a good tattoo artist, 100% of what they do is going to give them 100% of their finished product. Or painter, it's because not one stroke is wasted. And when you can put that kind of focus in your life, on your addiction, on your recovery, your marriage, your relationships, your businesses, then you can become successful. So you take one little area in your life instead of so many big areas. Like, okay, what do I need to work on today? What can I do that I can be laser focused in? So as you start finding those, because I was really scattered, even a year ago, when I wanted to write this book, and then I had a guy, Mike Fallett, he's the Dream Starter Publishing, and he helped me get focused. He's like, "What are you waiting for?" I said, "Well, I got so much." He goes, "Well, let me help you put it into perspective." So a couple interviews, and it didn't take long, and now I got a book. I'm a best-selling author, and it's like it feels so good to have that.
That is so cool too. Your book is called The Breakout Blueprint. That's the same name for the podcast. For people that wanted to find this, it's breakoutblueprintdn.com is the website. And I'm going to make sure I have all of your contact information and stuff that you supplied to me in the show notes, because I think what you're doing is amazing. People do need to shatter those old beliefs and change their habits and overcome their fears. And I'm reading this straight off of your book, man. This is strong stuff. You've got a really powerful, strong message, and a lot more people need to be aware of. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't walked this journey to be where I'm at, to not be able to go out and share and, give hope to people or help people. And, this is what I did to help me. I'm putting together courses, I'm putting together material on, if you want to improve your relationship, how I went from divorce papers to having like a wonderful relationship with my wife, becoming best friends. Because my definition of success is to be able to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with the one you love. And that's it. When you can go out and enjoy life with the person that you love the most, or the people you love the most, your family, whenever you want, which means, free financial freedom, freedom from stress, freedom from whatever. That to me is success. So, that's what I'm working for.
And speaking of the family, how old are your boys now?
So my oldest boy, Donovan, is 30. He is the head drill instructor for the Marine Corps. So when you go into the Marines, he's the guy you're going to see. He's the head guy. This is his last round. Uh,
Wow.
and we just had another granddaughter a couple days ago. So
Oh, congratulations, Grandpa.
yeah, and then I've got Dominic. He's my next son, and he is 20. I think he just turned 26, 25 or 26. I've lost count, but he works in Denver. He's gone down those roads, but he's getting his life together and he's doing really well. He's about to get his CDL and so he's becoming successful. And
Wow.
then I have my other son, Drayton. He is, I believe he's 21, 22. I don't know, I lost track, but he he is a pastor, and
Oh my
yeah, so
gosh.
he is out in Minnesota. So he's a pastor out in Minnesota, and he has a wife and my beautiful granddaughter that I've only seen, I think, maybe twice. And
Oh.
then I have my youngest boy, Zeke, who is 14 today. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, happy birthday to Zeke.
yeah. So, yeah, I've got four boys. And then I have some I have my stepson, Austin, who is 30, and my other stepson, Colin, who is 21, and then my stepdaughter, Zoe, who is, I think she is, I don't know, 21 or 22. I've lost track. So
So my brain is wrapping around this. There's 6 boys and a girl.
there is, yes, we have, yes, yes, between us, there are six boys and a girl. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. She was a little overwhelmed with the testosterone in that household.
Well, they're so far apart. So when Celeste came into my life, I only had my two boys, but she had her boys and her girl, when we had Zeke together. But we met in treatment. She was going through the same thing. We were both in a 2-year treatment program. So she's gone down these same roads, and she battled with alcoholism and drugs her whole
Yeah.
life too, and trauma. And she came from a mentally abusive household as well. And so together we've really done a lot of work. And that was, not it's so important that I had somebody that was willing to, when I got arrested the last time, and when like the crap hit the fan, we were both deep in our addiction. And it was like she made 100% change. She just got her 9 years a couple days ago. So yeah, it was a major turnaround for her, and I was like a couple months behind her, but we both decided at the same time, and then we both started really digging in to do the hard work and start really looking at what is causing this. Because like I have no choices left. I have 8 felonies and I have nothing. I'm already
Wow.
habitual, so I don't ever want to. That I'm trying to get as far away from that lifestyle as humanly possible. So, and I think I've
Yeah.
done a really good job of it. But
Yeah. I think you have. Damon, it is time for my final question. And it's always my
okay.
favorite question of the whole episode. What is one thing that you truly love about yourself that's not related to your physical appearance?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I love the fact that I'm not afraid to share anymore, and I'm open, and I'm willing to help people in any way I can. I've gone from a person that was full of hate to a person that's full of love that wants to help others. I think that's probably one of my biggest characteristics. There's the thing that I think I love the most, and I bet if I thought about it longer, I would probably find something else. But I'm starting to find a lot of things that I like about myself that I didn't before.
If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, please make sure you check out the episode description. You'll find links there on how you can learn more about this guest, links to connect with them on social media, and how to support the podcast. Remember, I don't get paid to do this. My boss is a bit tight fisted, but I can say that. I work for myself.